Welcome, tankers, to the Ground Nation Guide for War Thunder. In this episode, we'll be going over the Italian tank tree. The full playlist is linked below. Italy, a semi-major power during World War II that isn't exactly known for its armored vehicles, at least not in the way you think. The Royal Italian Army focused more on traditional means of warfare, with an emphasis on infantry and artillery, and combined with their limited industrial capacity, their tank program never really took off. Like the British and French, what little tanks Italy had were designed to support infantry in the form of infamous tankheads like the L3. After the war and the formation of NATO, the bulk of the Italian tank force consisted of British and American imports during their reconstruction. As the country entered the Cold War, they began experimenting with light and mobile tanks, APCs, and other such vehicles. Not many of these went beyond the prototype phase, but a select few managed to be sold to export markets. Modern Italian tank doctrine revolves around maneuver warfare, with mobility at the forefront. This reflects their general playstyle in War Thunder as well, with a big focus on flanking and sniping. In-game, the tree is divided into 5 lines, namely the light and medium tank lines, the SPAA line, the tank destroyer line, and the Hungarian armored subtree. Like I just mentioned, the early tiers are a bit of a struggle due to the Italian doctrine, but it gets much better from tier 3 onwards. The light tank line especially goes off the rails with unconventional firepower and top speeds in the triple digits. As for the Hungarian subtree, it starts with domestic designs of World War II, but gets replaced with Soviet and later on German imports. Overall, the combination of speed and firepower leads to an interesting playstyle that, with a bit of map knowledge, can lead to some devastating results for the enemy team. The Italian tank tree starts like any other, with fast light tanks that carry quick-firing cannons. The light tank line contains the AB-41, M1139, and the AS-4247. The Armored Vehicle 41 and North Africa 4247 are a pair of wheeled reconnaissance vehicles. Both of them can go roughly 80 km an hour or 50 miles per hour and carry decent firepower with a 20mm autocannon and 47mm tank gun. While both of them can be taken out by machine gun rounds, their great mobility lets them flank around anything they face, so keep moving and strike from enemy blind spots. The M1139 on the other hand is a bit of an oddball. It has 2 8mm machine guns on a fully rotatable turret, while its anti-tank cannon is mounted in the hull with limited traverse. This essentially turns it into a big casemate, making it pretty awkward to play. With poor mobility and armor, you're better off skipping this one and trying out the actual medium tanks. Speaking of, next are the medium tanks with the L640, M1341 and 3, and the M1441. The numbers might seem confusing, but the naming scheme is actually quite simple. L for light, M for medium, the first number for the tonnage, and the second number for the year of adoption. So, the L640 is a light tank weighing 6 tons and adopted in the year 1940. It packs the same 20mm cannon as the Auto Blinda, but with a lot worse mobility and slightly better armor, enough to withstand machine guns. Without the speed though, you might have some difficulty against enemies from the front. The M13 and 14 variants carry a 47mm cannon though, the same as the AS-4247. Like the L6 though, speed is not exactly their strong suit, with a top speed of a measly 33 km an hour or 21 miles per hour. Armor isn't too great either, but at least the gun fires decently quickly on the latter two models. If I'm being honest, they're all pretty mediocre, so just try to get through them as fast as you can. In the SPAA line, we have the AS-42. It's basically the 4247, but with a 20mm autocannon. It retains the great mobility and the non-existent armor. Its 20mm is the same as on the L6 and AB-41, so it's a decent anti-tank and okay-ish anti-air, mainly due to its small belt capacity. After only 12 rounds, you have to reload, so keep your ammo in check. The tank destroyer line features the legendary L333, the 4732 L40, and the Lancia 3-row 117. The L3 is, how do I put this? The best tank in the game. Wait, no, that's underselling it. The best tank ever. Yeah, that sounds about right. In all seriousness, this meme machine is a 2-man tankette with paper-thin armor, half-decent mobility, and a 20mm anti-tank rifle. Yup, you heard that right, an anti-tank rifle, not a cannon. Being one of the smallest vehicles in the game, it can hide in small holes and crevices, but its gun is very weak, so you have to play creatively by flanking and ambushing. The L-40, meanwhile, is a case-made tank destroyer built on the chassis of the L-6. It carries the same 47mm cannon as the mediums, and has some adequate mobility. It's like the mediums, just with a shorter profile, so tag along with your teammates and provide fire support. The Lancia, on the other hand, is a 4x2 battle bus with a 100mm howitzer from World War I. This makeshift design might sound strange, but it's surprisingly effective, with decent mobility and the howitzer dealing some serious damage. It carries a peculiar set of ammo choices, ranging from anti-concrete to heat and to besh of all things. At this BR, it acts like a derp gun, which means you have to find some cover, take pot shots at the enemy, and relocate after a couple of kills. Lastly, in the Hungarian line, we have the 39M Csaba, an armored car similar to the AB41. It's got fantastic mobility, going 65 km an hour or 40 miles per hour in both forwards and reverse, but its armor and firepower leave much to be desired. Like the AB, you should flank around the map and hit enemies from where they least expect it. At tier 2, we begin to see the late war Italian designs and the first couple of imports. In the light tank line, we have the AB43 and the M3A3. The Auto Blinda 43 is a modernized AB41 with an anti-tank cannon, that being the quick-firing 47mm. As you might expect, mobility is top-notch, and with this new gun, you can reliably deal with opponents from most angles. The Stuart is similar, with a good top speed, a fast-firing cannon, and pretty much no armor. They can both be used in long flanking maneuvers where you drive across the map and take enemies out from the shadows. Just be sure to stay out of sight, as enemy planes and autocannons can make quick work of you. The medium tank line contains the M1542, Panzer IIIN, and the P40. The M15 is nearly identical to the M14, but with a slightly better engine, more hull armor, and an improved model of the 47mm cannon, the same as on the AB43. Again though, it's nothing special, so you might want to skip it and check out the next two vehicles. The Panzer IIIN is pretty much the exact same as its German counterpart, being a decent jack of all trades with a short 75mm cannon and some good mobility. The muzzle velocity on the gun is not that great, but the heat shells it fires pack some serious punch, and you can lob one after another in quick succession. Lastly, we have the P40, the P standing for heavy in Italian. The P2640 is an interesting one. Its armor is pretty decent when angled, and its APHE shells pack 270 grams of explosive filler. For reference, that's about 10 times what a usual shell carries at this BR. Combine that with a short reload and some great gun depression and you have a solid medium tank. Mobility isn't anything to write home about, but it can get you from one point to another. Stick behind a heavy ally and take enemies out from medium range. For the anti-air line, we have the CM52, a Fiat transport truck carrying an M16 turret in the back. It plays largely the same as the American SPAA. The quad 50 cal setup works wonders against enemy aircraft thanks to its high fire rate. Mobility is good enough, but as you might expect, there's no armor to speak of. As long as you keep your ammo in check and avoid enemy detection, you'll be good to go. In the tank destroyer line, we have 5 case-made self-propelled guns with the 75-18 and 75-32 M41, the 75-34 M42, as well as the 105-25 and the 75-34 M43. The numbers, Gaijin, what do they mean? The first 3 tanks are very similar, all built on the chassis of the M14 and 15 and equipped with progressively more powerful 75mm cannons. Armor is not very good though, and mobility isn't particularly noteworthy, so stick to the fire support role. The latter two M43 variants on the other hand have surprisingly beefy armor at the front, being able to tank a lot of enemy shells. This makes them a lot more versatile, being capable of anything from sniping to brawling and so on. Like the P40, all 5 of these tanks carry stupidly high amounts of explosive filler, so anything you penetrate will go up like fireworks. Heat shells are also available for long-range duels or against heavier opponents. Not only that, but they also have top-notch gun depression angles as well, making them a great choice for various sniping roles. Lastly, in the Hungarian line, we have the Turan I and the VII-VIII, the former being a medium tank and the latter being a casemate, both based on the same hull design. The Turan plays sorta like a Panzer III, with decent mobility, a fast-firing cannon, and passable armor, which can be improved by angling. The VIII meanwhile is similar to a Sturmhaubitze, with strong frontal armor and a powerful howitzer, but with a slow reload rate. While neither of them have amazing top speeds, they make up for it with their maneuverability, thanks to their reverse gearboxes. They can go up to 40 km an hour or 25 miles per hour in both forwards and reverse, which lets them move around urban environments with ease. Overall, they're decent tanks in the supporting and medium range sniping role, but you have to know their limits and avoid charging in head first. At Tier 3, we start to see the last World War II designs and move on to the imported American and British vehicles. In the light tank line, we have the M24, M44, and the Breda 501. The Chaffee is a classic light tank with good mobility and a decent cannon. The M44, on the other hand, is an M44. I mean, this is the 5th time we're talking about this thing, and there's still another one in the French tech tree. Just stick with your teammates, nuke some enemies, and stay out of sight. The Breda 501 is a much more interesting vehicle. This thing is honestly one of my favorite tanks in the game. It's essentially the German flak truck, but with much better mobility. It can flank across the map and fire some powerful APHE shells, each with almost 350 grams of explosive filler. The most glaring issue is the lack of armor though. While it might survive a couple of tank shells, machine guns will take its crew members out one by one. If you make sure to relocate and stay out of sight though, it can be a great flanker and sniper. In the medium tank line, we have the Sherman V and 1C. The Sherman V is a different name for the M4A4, and as such, it performs like any low-tier Sherman. Its armor is durable against low-caliber guns, its mobility is good enough to keep up with the front lines, and its gun is sufficient against most vehicles. The Sherman 1C is similar, but with a crucial upgrade in firepower with the British 17-pounder cannon. It plays almost identically to the Sherman Firefly, which means you'll be keeping your distance from the main action and sniping enemies from afar. The cannon works wonders at this BR, being able to cut through anything it faces, but the lack of APHE does force you to aim for enemy weak spots. If you can manage that, you can rack up kills with ease. The SPAA line contains the M42 Contraerio, essentially an Italian whirlwind. Its quad 20mm cannons can shred enemy aircraft to bits, and once you unlock the HVAP builds, it can deal with enemy tanks as well. The only thing holding it back is the lack of armor and the low ammo count, but if you ambush properly and fire in short bursts, it can be a very effective multi-purpose vehicle. As for the tank destroyer line, you'll find the 9053 M41M, Stuck 3G, and the 7546 M43. Instead of the usual casemate design, the M41M is a light self-propelled gun with an open top and rear. Its main gun is the same as on the Breda 501, but get this, it can only carry 8 shells. Due to all these factors, you should stay far behind the front and pick enemies off from a distance. Set up some ammo crates and wait for the enemies to come to you. It can one-tap most tanks it faces. The Stuck 3 and 7546 are a lot more conventional though, returning to the casemate designs we saw at Tier 2. Mobility is decent enough, armor is quite solid, especially on the M43, and their armament is obviously top-notch. Getting flanked means certain death though, so make sure to keep the enemy in front of you at all times. Like the M41M, keep your distance and snipe enemies from afar. Lastly, we have the Hungarian line with the Turan 3. If the Turan 1 was like a Panzer 3, this thing is like a Panzer 4. It gets a significant upgrade in the form of a 75mm cannon, which can reliably deal with opponents at its BR. With the same maneuverability as well, the Turan 3 makes for a competent light sniper. Just make sure not to rush blindly, its armor isn't the most reliable. Tier 4 marks the slow transition between the imported tanks and the Cold War indigenous designs. The light tank line contains the M18, Albel 74, and the Fiat 6614. All three of these vehicles have great top speeds, deadly firepower, and no armor to speak of. The Hellcat is a classic flanker and sniper with mobility at the forefront. By staying out of sight and driving around the map, you can easily catch enemies off guard and relocate before they realize what's going on. The Albel and Fiat take this playstyle to the next level though, with top speeds of 100 kph or 62 mph and access to deadly heat rounds. These two wheeled APCs are the epitome of the flanking playstyle. The Albel is a more conventional design with a relatively compact size and a rotatable turret, while the Fiat is a pretty large vehicle with a slow recoilless rifle, but its heat grenades can penetrate up to 430mm of armor, so there's that. With all three, your main priority should be to lurk in the shadows and ambush your enemies. Make sure to relocate often though, since machine guns and enemy aircraft can make quick work of you. In the medium tank line, we have the Sherman 5C and the M26A1. The only real difference between the 5C and the previous Sherman is a slightly different hull design, better optics, and access to APDS. The new Sabo round is definitely nice to have, but as you might expect, its post-pen damage is much worse than the regular armor-piercing shell. As for the M26A1, it's essentially the same as the American model, just with a slightly improved cannon that fires better APCR rounds. Like with any other Pershing, it's a decent jack of all trades in terms of mobility, armor, and firepower, but it doesn't specialize on any given playstyle. Support your allies and keep your flanks protected, and you should be good to go. In the anti-air line, we have the Leopard 4070 and the R3T20, two infamous SPAAs. The Leopard 4070 is a 40mm Bofors cannon mounted on the hull of the Leopard A1A1. As such, mobility is pretty good, and the cannon is capable against both air and ground targets. Despite the modern hull, armor is not amazing, especially due to its open top design. If you're looking for a more dedicated anti-air vehicle though, look no further than the R3T20. It has an impressive fire rate on its 20mm autocannon, it has amazing mobility, and has access to a stabilizer at low speeds. Back in its heyday, this thing used to be at a much lower BR with no reload time and a full stabilizer. Speaking of, I actually used to make kill montages back in the day, one of which was about the R3. I have a link in the description if you want to check it out. In classic Gaijin fashion, however, it's been nerfed to the ground, perhaps rightfully so, making it a purely anti-air vehicle. A pretty good one nevertheless though. In the tank destroyer line, you'll find the M36B1 and the M109G. The B1 model of the Jackson is pretty much the same as the B2, but with a better engine and taller profile. Like its American counterpart, it's a solid long-range sniper, but armor is not its specialty. Use its decent mobility to find a vantage point and get to work. The M109, meanwhile, is the classic derp gun we all know and love. Decent mobility, lackluster armor, and the big boomstick. Stay behind the front and provide heavy fire support to your teammates. Last but not least, we have the Hungarian line with the 2S1. It shares many things with the M109, both being decently mobile self-propelled howitzers. It has a shorter reload rate compared to the 109, and gets access to Heat FS, which can be handy against heavier opponents. It's pretty much the same in all other applications though, so stay back and lob some shells. Onwards and upwards, we have Tier 5, featuring some notorious vehicles from the Cold War. The light tank line contains the C-13 T-90 and the R-3 T-106. The C-13 is a more conventional scouting vehicle with good mobility and decent Heat FS shells. It might not be purely built for speed like some other vehicles, but if you use some map knowledge, you can outsmart the big and heavy tanks at these BRs. Avoid enemy detection though, autocannons will make quick work of it. The R-3 T-106 106 on the other hand is a lot more interesting. Another one of my favorite tanks, this meme machine is one of the fastest vehicles in the game, going up to 115 kilometers an hour or 71 miles per hour while weighing almost nothing. Not only that, but it also carries two 106mm recoilless rifles, which can make quick work of anything you face. And if the first shot doesn't take the enemy out, you can simply fire again. As you might expect though, pretty much any gun in the game can take it out, which is why staying on the move is absolutely crucial. Zoom across the map, ambush enemies from the shadows, and run away like your life depends on it, because it does. In the medium tank line, we have the M47-105-55, the OF-40, and the Leopard 182. The M47-105 is nearly identical to its American counterpart, just with an Italian variant of the 105mm L7 cannon. It's got passable mobility, half-decent protection, and access to an optical rangefinder, so it can be a good medium to long-range sniper. The OF-40 and Leopard 182 put a bigger emphasis on mobility at the cost of armor. With a similar 105mm cannon as the M47, some pretty good optics as well as rangefinders, they can be decent long-range snipers and flankers. The two vehicles are very similar. The biggest difference is that the OF has a laser rangefinder, while the Leopard only has an optical one. They play pretty much the same though, so snipe and flank while staying out of sight. For anti-airs, we have the Hungarian ZSU-57-2. Like with the Soviet and Chinese variants, the Sparka is an absolutely devastating vehicle with twin 57mm cannons. A quick flanking maneuver will let you rip into the sides of enemy tanks and destroy one after another in quick succession. It's not the best against aircraft due to its low fire rate, but if you manage to hit one, they'll likely go down in a single hit. Play it like a flanker or support vehicle in the meantime. Lastly, in the Hungarian line, we have the BTR-80A. This modernized Russian APC has a great top speed, a quick-firing 30mm autocannon, and no armor whatsoever. Like with most ratty vehicles, your main objective should be to scout and harass enemies you see. Its gun isn't powerful enough to deal with enemies head-on, so get creative and flank whenever possible. At tier 6, you'll find some of the later Cold War designs, both domestic and foreign. The light tank line contains the VCC-8060 and the Centauro 105 and 105R. The VCC is sorta mediocre if I'm being honest. I mean, its mobility is decent enough, it has thermals and a laser rangefinder, and its stabilized 60mm cannon has a reload rate of a whopping 2 seconds. In practice though, its APF-SDS rounds deal little to no post-penetration damage, so you might end up spending your limited number of shells on one or two targets. The two Centauros are where it's at though, my favorite tanks in the game. They've got amazing mobility, laser rangefinders, thermals, and a powerful 105mm cannon that can fire some deadly APF-SDS. Both models can easily flank across the map and snipe targets from long distances, and by the time the enemy catches on, you'll already be on the other side of the map. Their armor is only strong enough to withstand machine guns, but they're so spaced out that they can survive a surprising number of shots. Their main differences are the ERA packages and the addition of the DM33 dart on the Romor variant. Regardless, both vehicles are excellent flankers and snipers that can easily clear the map with a bit of smart maneuvering. The medium tank line turns into the MBT line with the OF-40 Mark II-A and the Leopard 1A5. The Mark II-A variant of the OF-40 is nearly identical to its predecessor, just with a better turret traverse rate, the addition of a 2-plane stabilizer, and access to the DM23 dart. Don't get me wrong, these upgrades are definitely useful, but at this increased BR range, pretty much every tank has these features, so the novelty is a bit lost. The Leopard 1A5 plays very similarly, with pretty much the same mobility, armor, and firepower, just with access to thermals and a more powerful dart. As you might expect, it plays largely the same, so keep your distance and engage from afar. In the SPAA line, we have the ZSU-23-4V and the Saddam-25. Both of these vehicles are quite effective against aircraft, as they feature 23 and 25mm autocannons respectively. In my opinion, the Shilka is the much better vehicle though, as it has a search radar, a faster rate of fire, and a lot more ammo at its disposal. What the Saddam does better is a smaller profile, better mobility, faster turret traverse, and a very limited APDS belt. I'd recommend trying them both out and seeing which one you like best, as they both have their strengths and weaknesses. In the tank destroyer line, you'll find the M113A1 TOW and the VBCPT2. Like the Chinese variants, the M113 is not exactly that great of a tank destroyer. Yes, it does get some decent missiles, but they're not the fastest, and the reload time can be deadly if you're caught with your pants down. The VBC, on the other hand, is like a BTR-80 but better, with amazing mobility, a stabilized 25mm autocannon, a laser rangefinder, and thermals. It gets an APFSDS belt after some modifications, but even then, flanking is a must. Conventional tactics won't get you far, so flank and harass enemies like a true rat. Lastly, in the Hungarian line, we have the T-72M1. This variant of the T-72 is just like all the others, with excellent firepower, a low profile, and relatively strong armor. The upper front plate and turret cheeks are well protected against most tanks at its BR, but mobility is not the best. All these factors combined makes long-range sniping the obvious choice, so advance slowly and wait for the enemy to come to you. At last, we reach the final frontier, rank 7 and 8, containing the pinnacle of Italian armored technology. The light tank line features the Centauro 120. As you might have guessed, it's a Centauro but with a 120mm cannon. Despite the large caliber, the reload rate is a lot faster, with only 5 seconds on an aced crew. Its final dart is also very powerful, with almost 600mm of penetration. At this BR though, you'll see a lot more helicopters and drones, which will be the bane of your existence. Stay alive by staying on the move and snipe enemies from afar. In the MBT line, we have the C1 Ariete with 4 different variants. Unlike the other main battle tanks, the Arietes completely abandoned the idea of armor. They have some of, if not the worst armor protection for their class, with pretty much all anti-tank shells being able to penetrate them from any angle. Mobility is not bad, but not the best either. The main selling points of these vehicles is their firepower. They all feature a 120mm cannon and can fire some deadly APFSDS rounds. That's all well and good, but to be frank, other MBTs have similar guns but with better armor or mobility, sometimes even both, so they don't really stand out too much. Now, for the differences between the variants, the peace support operations and the Ariete have access to the DM53 Dart and add-on armor packages, which are pretty useless to be honest, while the AMV has a more powerful engine. Overall, these 4 models have good firepower and decent mobility but no armor whatsoever. Try to find a vantage point far away from the front and don't reveal yourself under any circumstances. Not even being hulled down will save you, so avoid enemy detection at all costs. In the anti-air line, we have the Saddam-25 Mistral, OSA AKM, Strela 10M, and the Automatic. The Saddam Mistral is just what it seems, a Saddam-25 with surface-to-air missiles. As far as SAMs go, they're pretty decent, traveling quite fast and being resistant to flares. Still no detection radar though. For that, check out the OSA and Strela, a pair of Romanian and Hungarian anti-airs respectively. Like their Soviet counterparts, the OSA is great against helicopters, while the Strela is better against fast-moving jets. They both pale in comparison to the glorious Automatic though. Instead of puny autocannons, the Automagic carries a 76mm anti-everything cannon with a whopping 0.5 second reload. Thanks to its high muzzle velocity and laser rangefinder, it can slap anything out of the sky with its HEVT shells, no matter the distance. Once you unlock its APFSDS round, it also becomes a menace to ground targets, but due to design constraints IRL, it can only carry a handful of them. Speaking of ammo, once the first stage ammo stowage runs out, the reload rate is much slower and it also has a massive profile. Stick with your allies to provide fire support and shoot down aircraft that dare oppose you. The tank destroyer line turns into an IFV line with the Dardo, VCC 8030 and the Freccia. The Dardo and VCC are good support vehicles with dual TOW-2 ATGM launchers along with 25 and 30mm autocannons respectively. The Dardo has a much faster fire rate, but the VCC has ever so slightly better penetration on its APFSDS belt. The various TOW-2 missiles allow you to engage from the front, but it's still not recommended. Either tag along with your teammates or flank the enemy. Speaking of flanking, the last IFV is the Freccia. It's got an amazing top speed, Spike 2 ATGM launchers, and the same 25mm as the Dardo. It's very reminiscent of the R3, being a ratty vehicle with a top speed of 110 kph or 68 mph and decent firepower. The spikes are overflight top attack tandem charge missiles, but they're also one of the buggiest projectiles in game, so it's best not to rely on them. Use its great mobility to your advantage and ambush enemies from their flanks. And lastly, we have the Hungarian line with the Leopard 2A4, KF41, and the Leopard 2A7HU. Like in the German tech tree, the Leopard 2A4 and 2A7 are very solid MBTs with good mobility and amazing firepower, with the latter also having great frontal armor. They're practically identical to their original versions, just with a roof-mounted 50 cal on the 2A7. The KF41, meanwhile, is an import variant of the German Lynx IFV. It shares many things with the Puma VJTF, like the active protection system, Spike 2 ATGMs, and a 30mm autocannon. Like the Puma though, it's not exactly the most competitive vehicle, with the spikes being unreliable like mentioned before, and the main gun just not being up to scratch at this BR. Just focus on the two Leopards, they're much better vehicles in pretty much all aspects. At long last, we reach the conclusion, starting with the pros and cons. The main highlight of the Italian tank tree are the flankers. Wherever you look, you can find some fast and furious speedsters like the AB41, Breda 501, R3, and all the way to the Centauros. Not only that, but firepower is also abundant, from conventional cannons with great APHE to recoilless rifles that can shoot heat grenades. Fans of high-octane gameplay will definitely enjoy what this tree has to offer. Aside from that, the tree also has a decent selection of some great imported vehicles from various countries. The Sherman Firefly, M18, and a lot of Soviet anti-airs come to mind. That being said, all the copy and paste might discourage players looking for a fresh experience, as they make up a good portion of the tree. Armor is also not something you can find very easily on Italian tanks. A big majority of these vehicles sacrifice armor for mobility, so you'll have to rely on positioning and map knowledge to stay alive. Now we move on to the rankings, starting with playstyles. As mentioned before, flanking and sniping is the bread and butter of the Italian tank tree. Brawling is pretty much out of the question except for a handful of vehicles, but supporting is still quite viable. As for the ranks, the tree takes a decent while to get going with some mediocre early tier vehicles. The mid ranks are where the tree starts to shine, but it takes a small dip at tier 5 before picking back up again. While the Arietes aren't the most competitive, you thankfully have the Hungarian Leopards and various supporting vehicles as well. Close air support is a mixed bag with a small number of good CAS options early on, but some great choices for top tier. Anti-air on the other hand is quite solid throughout the tree. And finally, we have the age-old question, should you play the Italian tank tree? If you're a beginner, it's not a particularly great choice. The early vehicles are pretty subpar like I said, and the tree isn't exactly the most forgiving later on either. If you're looking for a new nation to grind, it's an okay choice though. Despite the numerous copy-pasted vehicles, there are definitely a lot of unique and interesting ones to try out. The tree isn't massive either, so grinding to top tier won't take too long. And if you're looking to have some fun, it's a great choice. The lack of armor and the abundance of speed provides a fun challenge and tests your map knowledge, and the sheer euphoria of catching enemies by surprise in your ratty little meme machines is just really cathartic. Some of my favorite tanks in the entire game are the R3T106 and the Centauro 105.
Siamo stati colpiti!